The amount of AI image generators claiming to be the best right now is honestly almost intimidating. That's why I spent the last month generating thousands of images across every major AI generator to find out which ones are actually worth your time. Because picking the right tool is what sets the foundation for whether or not you're going to get good results. And the difference matters way more than just output quality. It's how much time you waste trying to get a tool to actually give you what you asked for. So in this video, I'm ranking every major AI image generator from S tier to F tier, from the absolute best to the ones you should avoid completely, so you know exactly which tools deserve your attention and which ones are just wasting your time. The platform I'm going to be using to access all of the image generators we're taking a look at today is called OpenArt. The reason I use it is that it allows me to access every single image generator in one really simple and easy to use interface, without me having to get 10 different subscriptions. This saves you a ton of money and lets you actually compare models side by side, which is exactly what we're about to do. I'm already in the image generator space here in OpenArt, and I'm going to click here to select our first model, which is Seedream 4.5. We'll also take a look at Seedream 4. Both of these are developed by ByteDance and are intended to be really good generative, super realistic models with a heavy focus on being able to edit the images as well. That editing capability is huge because it means you're not just generating from scratch, you can actually refine and tweak your outputs until they're perfect. So without further ado, let's test it out with our universal prompt. This is the prompt we're going to be using across every single model, and it incorporates everything from realism to image complexity, text rendering, and every other thing you'd care about, all in one prompt that we're testing across every single image generator. This way you're seeing a true comparison. I'm going to go ahead and generate our first image for Seedream 4.5. I'm also going to switch really quickly to Seedream 4 and generate one there. Looking at the image generated by Seedream 4.5, you can clearly see there's a lot more complexity and realism to the image. It looks a lot more real. Everything from the facial expressions to the smallest details, and the text is just a tiny bit better than the older model. The older version lacks a little bit in the overall picture, but nevertheless, the results came out looking really good. Both models support 2K and 4K resolutions, which positions them high. I'm going to give Seedream 4.5 an S tier and Seedream 4 an A tier, since it's a little bit lagging behind. Now the next model is the one that's by far talked about as the best one, and that's the Nano Banana family, both the old standard model and the Pro model. Both are developed by Google and are intended to function as deeply integrated creative image generators, allowing users to generate brand consistent assets, visuals, and do any other complex work. Nano Banana Pro is made to handle even more than its predecessor. Similarly to Seedream, Google has really invested in making these models production ready, which means you can actually use them for professional work without worrying about quality and consistencies. So let's test both of them out with our prompt. One big difference between both of those models is the cost. On OpenArt, the Nano Banana standard model costs only 15 credits per image, while Nano Banana Pro costs up to 60 credits. That makes a huge difference if you're trying to generate a ton of images, so keep that in mind when you're deciding which one to use for your workflow. Looking at the results though, you can really see the small differences that make Nano Banana Pro stand out better. The way the text looks, the fabric, it just looks much better than the standard model. The expressions and the physics of the image are also a lot better on the Pro model. Even the overall quality looks much better on Nano Banana Pro. One other important thing to mention is that Nano Banana Pro has a huge difference from the standard model, and that's the output quality. With Nano Banana Pro, you can freely generate images up to 4K in resolution, while with the standard model, you can't choose that. That 4K capability alone is a game changer for anyone doing print work or high-resolution digital assets. I'm going to give Nano Banana Pro an S tier and Nano Banana Standard a B tier, because while it's good for the price, it just can't compete with the Pro version on quality. Now I'll switch over to one of the most interesting image generators in today's lineup, and that's the Kling image generator. This is of course made by Kling, and it's made to be more of an image-to-image generator rather than one that generates something purely from text. That said, you can still use it without any images included. What makes this particularly useful is when you already have a reference image and you want to modify it, or use it as a starting point. That's where Kling really shines. So let's copy and paste the prompt, and here's the result I get back. You can see that they for some reason took on more of a Disney 3D cartoon style to the image, which isn't bad by any means because all of the details and textures are still really well made. It's just not really realistic at all, which kind of ruins the overall theme we had going for this prompt. So for that reason, let me also test it out with the intended version of using this. I'm going to go ahead and upload one of the images we've just generated from other generators using the history method. Then in the description, I'm going to go ahead and write remove all the people from the image just to test how well it handles that. I'm going to go ahead and click 2K for the resolution, just so we get the best possible quality, and click create. It actually handles that very well. It still leaves the realistic theme to the image, giving us a pretty decent result when it's used as it's actually intended. I'm going to give Kling a B tier for text to image use, but an A tier when used as an image to image tool, which is what it's actually designed for. Now, probably the biggest image generator family is the Flux family, which we're going to take a look at next. The Flux lineup is made by Black Forest Labs, and the whole entire Flux 2 family is intended to provide really good production-grade photorealistic image generation. There are 3 models we're going to be taking a look at. The first one is Flux Pro, and it's the model that's intended to be a balanced standard for creators. It's their middle-of-the-line image generator, which means it's designed to give you great results without completely draining your credits. So let's go ahead and test it out with our prompt. The result looks pretty good. In terms of the realism, I do think that Nano Banana handled that a lot better, and the way the image was made looks a lot better from Nano Banana. But we still haven't tested the heavy hitter of the Flux family, which is the Max model. So let's go ahead and generate an image from there. Here you can see a bigger lift in the overall realism. The text in the background looks also exceptionally good. The different expressions on the face and even the little droplets of sweat look really realistic. Everything from lighting to textures also looks really good. This puts Flux Max pretty high up. Let's also test out the final contender from the Flux family, which is the Flex model. This is made to be a lower tier model out of the 3 of them, making for faster results that require less of the GPU strain. That's useful when you're doing high volume work and you don't need top tier quality on every single image. I'm going to go ahead and generate one from there. Here you can clearly see it's a little bit lower in terms of quality. The overall result looks honestly one of the worst we've had so far, if you're not considering the cartoonish result we got from Kling. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put the Flux Flex model at C tier, just because even though it's fast, the quality drop is noticeable. I'm going to bump the Flux Max model to S tier alongside Nano Banana Pro and Seedream 4.5. The Flux Pro model is going to sit at A tier, since it's solid but not quite at the top. That being said, let's test out one of the lesser known models from today's lineup that's made by Reeve Art. This model is intended to outperform contenders in pure aesthetic and typography. The intention of this model is to prioritize absolute creative freedom and the artistic beauty of the image. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and send our prompt. Let's take a look at it. The curveball here is that the overall image actually looks like it was taken by an 80s camera. It doesn't have any of the AI feel to it at all. I absolutely love how it looks like an actual photograph from the 80s. You can clearly see how this one adds a lot more to the overall aesthetic, and it makes us feel a lot closer to the environment. Like we're actually looking at something that was photographed, not generated. I'm going to give Reeve an A tier for its unique approach, though it's worth noting this style won't work for every use case, so keep that in mind. Now we have OpenArt's own model called OpenArt Photorealistic. This one has a huge emphasis on being as photorealistic as possible, making it look like the image was taken from someone's phone and leaving 0 hints of that AI perfectness. That's actually a big deal because one of the telltale signs of AI generated images is that they look too perfect, too clean, and OpenArt Photorealistic is specifically designed to avoid that. So let's go ahead and generate a result and take a look at it. Here you can clearly see what I mean. It doesn't have any of that historical feel that other images have to it. It's made to look as realistic as possible. You can see the scene in the background looking exactly as it would today. The overall aesthetic just looks like a normal snapshot from a tourist. This one is a little bit tricky in terms of use case. It works really well if you need an extremely realistic image of a person. But if you're looking for something a little bit more stylized or unreal, this one would kind of ruin the overall aesthetic. So for that reason, I'm going to put OpenArt Photorealistic in B tier. The next image generator in our lineup is an interesting one. Hunyuan Image 3 is made by Tencent. It's intended to be a massive 80 billion parameter powerhouse that excels at bilingual text rendering, specifically Chinese and English. On paper, it was established to be a dominant open source foundation for the Asian market. That bilingual capability is huge if you are creating content for international audiences or need to render text in multiple languages without quality loss. So it's going to be really interesting to test out what it gives us. I'm going to go ahead and put in my prompt, click create, and here's the result. This one also has a little bit of that drawn aesthetic, but it does look a lot more dramatic than any other ones, which is something I really like about this result. I absolutely love how almost everything in here looks. If you see in the background, the text is really well done. Even though it's done in a very tricky way, like it was almost embroidered, it still has the overall aesthetic, and you can clearly read everything that it says. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put Hunyuan Image 3 at A tier, even though it gave us a less realistic looking result. Now, another model made by Google, specifically Google's DeepMind, is intended to set a benchmark for really hyper-realistic image generation. This is a much older model than Nano Banana, and that's Imagen 4. It does have other models earlier in its lineup, But as I already mentioned, the model is pretty old, and testing out the older versions of an already old model would be a massive waste of time. That's why I'm only going to be testing out the fourth one. So I'm going to put in my prompt, and here's the result. It does look pretty similar in terms of composition to OpenArt photorealistic, but here we have that historical feel to it again. You can see that everyone is made to look like an actual Aztec person, obviously looking like they would have back in the day. That definitely puts it a little bit higher. Besides that, I'm missing a little bit of the realism, and the overall image looks pretty empty, even though it should be looking pretty dramatic. From this, we can draw the conclusion that the prompt adherence isn't as good as with the other image generators. For that reason, I'm going to put Imagen 4 in B tier. Now, another model priding itself in typography is Ideogram v3. The intention is to be the ultimate tool for graphic designers and marketers, solving the text problem. Of course, it's been solved by other image generators by now as well. Nevertheless, let's go ahead and paste in our prompt and test out this one. Here, we can see a lot more of the action happening, but I do see that very smooth feel to the overall image. It's basically removing a lot of that realistic aesthetic we're looking for. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and chuck this model in C tier, because compared to other results, this one is lacking pretty heavily in terms of the overall realism. Now, Juggernaut Flux is a really cool model that's built on Black Forest Labs' Flux architecture, but is developed by Run Diffusion. It's intended to be a fix to the other Flux models by stripping away the plasticness. That plastic look is one of the most common complaints about AI images, so having a model specifically designed to eliminate that is pretty valuable. So let's go ahead and paste in our prompt and check out their result. Here you can clearly see that it looks incredibly realistic. Both people and the final result look the most realistic compared to other image generators. You can also see there's all of those small details on the people, which adds a lot more to the overall believability of the image. I absolutely love how this one turned out. Even though this model is primarily made for creating people and images of people, the text in the background looks really well done, which is absolutely amazing to see. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and place Juggernaut Flux in A tier, just because the models in S tier are still massively outperforming it in overall image quality. Now, another Chinese model in today's lineup is made by Alibaba Cloud, and it's the Qwen image model. It's built to handle a lot of complex instructions, and is supposedly really good at prompt adherence. So let's go ahead and paste in our prompt and check out if it actually is able to handle it. We get back this really 3D looking cartoonish result. Usually in my experience, this happens whenever a model just isn't able to keep up with the prompt, and it massively reduces the realism, making it look more like a cartoon than an actual realistic picture. So for that reason, I do have to place this model all the way down in F tier, just because this is by far the least realistic result we've gotten. If we take a look at what Kling gave us, even though that one also looks like a 3D cartoon, you can clearly see the realism in that image is way better than what we got from Qwen. So here's the final tier list fully done. You can clearly see that the winners of today's lineup are Seedream 4.5, Nano Banana Pro, and Flux Max. But honestly, the biggest winner in today's video is not the models themselves, it's OpenArt. OpenArt is the reason this entire video was possible. Instead of wasting money on 10 different subscriptions, it gives you access to every single one of these top tier models in one simple, easy to use interface. If you want to start creating using the best tools out there, hit the first link in the description and sign up to OpenArt right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.